Now it is exactly 9 p.m. on this 29th day of May 2024. You're just in time for the insight here on Lookuptv. Before we continue, let's have a look at the news items making headlines tonight. Tonight on the insight, at least 20,000 JSS teachers to be hired on permanent and pensionable basis should the Finance Bill 2024-2025 be passed. Nairobi County UDA delegates back Nairobi Governor Arthur Johnson Sakaja for county chairmanship. And National Biosafety Authority announces release of 3 more varieties of GMO crops into the market once a pending court case is heard and determined. Welcome to the program tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Josephine Eriko and Ian Keitani is my name. Now remember, you can watch this bulletin live on our Facebook and YouTube pages at Lookuptv. Now it is a reprieve for JSS teachers after the Budget and Appropriations Committee led by Ndindi Nyoro today announced that the committee had set aside funds to hire them on permanent and pensionable basis. Now, according to Nyoro, that will be actualized if the budget is approved by the National Assembly. Now, also to benefit from the allocations is the school feeding program.
We have provided resources for the confirmation of JSS interns into permanent and pensionable terms. We do this because they have already done a great job so far. Of course, with very little pay, it is only fair that we treat our brothers and sisters who are current interns in a manner that they have also treated our country with a lot of respect. I want to assure the people of Kenya that the Budget and Appropriations Committee, in consultation with the entire Parliament led by the Department for Education, and in consultation with the Executive, there is an issue that has been of very great concern to Kenyans about school feeding program. And I want to assure Kenyans that we have already considered so far monies that will be going into NACONEC to advance the cause of school-going children in areas that they need support in terms of food. And therefore, school feeding program is there. We have provided for the money and it will continue uninterrupted. In the first phase, we will be proposing around 3 billion Kenya shillings into the fund, as also we look at the strengthening its supply chains so that we continue also to enhance that budget.
On to a very interesting story. Nairobi Governor Arthur Johnson Sakaja has vowed to ensure that the UDA party grows in readiness for the 2027 elections. Speaking at the Bomas of Kenya, when Nairobi UDA delegates promised to back his bid for chairmanship, Sakaja noted that he helped the 3rd and 4th presidents and he can do the same for President William Ruto. Stanley Lugari attended the session and files the following report.
Delegates wa UDA ambao umechaguliwa, niendelee kuunganisha watu ama niwatawanyishe?
Addressing over 7,000 grassroots UDA delegates at the Bomas of Kenya, Sakaja reiterated the need to unite the city by electing leaders who will champion the party's agenda in the upcoming party elections.
4 out of 17. Na kwa MCAs out of 85 tukapata 35. So nikaulizwa, unaenda kutengeneza nini huko juu kama kwako Nairobi iko kazi inahitajika kufanyika, so that in 2027 we get a majority for the president, we get a majority, we get the senator, we get the women rep, we get MPs and we get MCAs.
The county bows through jibes at the critics, accusing them of pushing regional politics driven by tribalism.
You know, bullies are the biggest cowards. Do you know that? Bullies are the maka unenda siju kwa msitu siju wapi. Let me tell you, if you want to respect other leaders. Respect other leaders. And if you don't respect those leaders, respect the people who put them there.
The 7,000 delegates unanimously vowed to support his candidature on Friday. which marks the day for the UDA party elections, with over 360 positions up for grab at the constituency and county levels.
Sisi tuko nyuma ya Governor Sakaja, tutapanga mikakati yetu, tutafanya kazi. Mimi ninasaidia kuendeleza kazi yetu.
Pale nyumbani mali nakula na lala na moto ikiwaka, mimi nakuwa wa kwanza kuzima. Si ndi kweli? Health center iko mara kabisa. Pale Kware tuko sawa kabisa.
UDA party kicked off its grassroots elections at the end of last month, beginning with 7,000 elective positions at the polling stations, as well as 1,700 slots at the ward level, with the winners set to be announced soon after the Friday elections.
Wale jamaa najua wote mahali wako wamevaa majacket na makabuti. Si Nairobi ndio hii? Kuna Nairobi ingine? Kuna Nairobi ingine kweli?
And we have no shame, we have no apology, and we seek no one's permission to unite the people of Nairobi.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Of course, there's a lot of hate within the ruling party, the United Democratic Alliance. Not only, the Nairobi governor taking on other leaders in the party, but today, Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi, Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, and other leaders have, of course, condemned the Secretary General of the party, that is Cleophas Malala, in regards to the statement that he issued in regards to the conduct of the three in the past few weeks. We'll be following up the developments in that particular party in a bid to keep you updated with whatever is happening in the country in regards to matters politics. Now, the National Biosafety Authority has announced that it is prepared to release 3 more varieties of genetically modified crops into the market once a pending court case is heard and determined. The authority has developed maize, cassava and potato varieties as part of the 42 GMO projects currently in the works.
Speaking at the authority's 12th annual general meeting in Naivasha, NBO CEO Dr. Roy Mugira explained that they are currently working on 42 crops in preparation for their introduction into the market. However, the court cases have delayed the release of these crops by a year following the government's lifting of the 10-year ban of GMO products importation.
We held the conference when the government had just lifted the 10-year ban on the importation and use of genetically modified foods. Now, we were all set to get into business and conduct business in this particular field. But again, within their rights, a number of individuals and institutions went to court and petitioned the court to stop, to petition against the lifting of the ban. We have dealt with one of those petitions that was filed in the Land and Environment Court, and the court found that we have a robust biosafety regulatory framework that is capable of assuring safety in the application of modern biotechnology.
Professor Richard Odor from Kenyatta University supported GMO products as safe for human consumption and stated that the ongoing myths surrounding GMOs are based on misinformation and emphasized the need to embrace technology in food production just as it is in other sectors.
I think we need to do a lot of training for people to accept that culture is not bad. But when culture becomes prohibited, then we need to discuss that culture. Yes, we are raised up we belong to particular cultures. People eat differently, they have different socialization, and there is nothing wrong with that. My only concern is when now culture is being taken advantage of, and therefore to reduce or prohibit introduction of newer technologies. Yes, we appreciate that we have been eating a particular set of food for years, and that's acceptable. But we are also saying we also need to be open-minded.
Vivian Iraki, an expert in the field, attributed the fallacies around GMOs to lack of information among the public. She mentioned the efforts are being made to disseminate accurate information about GMO products to dispel these myths.
The challenges that we've seen in transitioning biotech product to society is the communication challenge, and that's the unique aspect that ISA AfriCenter brings to this conference.
Martin Masharia, Lookuptv.
Now, thank you very much, Martin Masharia, for that story. We take a brief break. I'll be back with a feature in regards to vehicle emissions, it being the biggest contributor to air pollution, and as well its effects to human lives. That will be after this short breather. Don't go away.
na mimi nikufundishe kuhusu ufugaji ama kuweka mbuzi wa maziwa.
Hauhitaji utafute kichaka ya kwenda kulisha mbuzi, utafute mtu wa kulisha. Unahitaji tu hiyo space yako kidogo uutilize vizuri katika zero grazing unit. Mbuzi anakula chakula kilicho kidogo sana ukikompea na ng'ombe ambao tunawafuga katika maboma zetu.
Nionyeshe mbuzi wa maziwa.
Mbuzi wa maziwa ni hawa wote vile unavyowaona.
Hii mapembe ndio mbuzi wa maziwa.
Na wacha nikwambie, nimeshangaa sana leo. Fera umeingia tu hivi pap na mbuzi wangu wamezaa. Pia kuna wale watu wako na shinda zao za mwili, kuna wale wa pressure na magonjwa mbalimbali katika mwili. Unahitaji kukunywa maziwa ya mbuzi ndio ikaweze kukusaidia na kuongeza immunity yako ikuje juu.
Now, thank you very much for staying with us. Now, approximately 19,000 people die each year due to air pollution in Kenya. This is according to a report by the World Health Organization, which places Nairobi as one of the polluted cities that is killing its citizens. Now, while vehicle emission is the biggest contributor to air pollution, at the center of all is the fumes in a special, rather, at the center of all the fumes is a special group of people that are mandated to control the traffic at the expense of their health. Brian Amwai brings you this special feature dubbed Checking on Duty that highlights the dangers that traffic police officers face while ensuring that you travel in a controlled manner to save time.
Nairobi, the green city under the sun. The streets of the capital are busy all day, traffic bumper to bumper, with individuals rushing against time to either get to work or get home. Thousands of vehicles drive in and out of the CBD in a day, and with each engine turned on, one thing comes out: vehicular emission. A threat to the very environment we depend on for survival. As the rush to get to the destination is amplified by each acceleration, the toxic fumes become the new reality of pedestrians using the roads. However, there is a faction of people left out of the equation, the traffic police officers, whose job is to control the very traffic that is killing them one vehicle at a time as they choke on duty. When they are busy controlling traffic in the city and ensuring that everything is moving, they expose themselves to dangers that do not need a gun. Exposure to air pollution has great impact on the respiratory system, as Dr. Navid Merali explains.
Air pollution itself has got a very big problem in our airways. The molecules or the chemicals that are produced by these gases are what we call as free radicals. These free radicals cause harmful reactions in the airway by leading to excess inflammation. This is a very similar pathway to how cancer cells are formed, whereby there is persistent damage or free radical formation in cell tissue, and this leads to cell damage or chronic cellular damage. Air pollution then increases the risk of airway diseases. Some of these diseases are what we know as asthma. They can lead to chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. They can lead to increased incidence of chest infections, and they can even lead to an increased risk of lung cancer or other malignancies as well.
Paul Sigila is a chief inspector and works with the traffic department. His work entails being on the streets to control traffic. Inspector Sigilai says he has been controlling traffic for over 3 years now and attests to the fact that his health has been affected as a result.
I've been on the traffic department for about almost 3.5 years, yes. In the 3.5 years in the CBD. Yes, there's numerous challenges, particularly the fumes. The fumes are not that good for human health, and on some occasion I've also gone to the hospital for medical checkup, having the chest congestions occasioned by dust and fumes in the CBD. And the challenges are there, indeed, the challenges of exposure. Putting in mind that the fumes also affect the environment, the ozone layer. So if you can imagine it is affecting the ozone layer, what about the human beings?
The posting of officers is rotational, with each one of them lasting 8 hours on the road and at times even more, which leads to more exposure.
These are the same officers who will be here for the whole month, and we keep on rotating them. Sometimes they are here at the railways roundabout, sometimes they are the highway, Uru Highway. Now, the rotation happens on a weekly basis.
Their health is on the line as they continue to call for sick-offs.
Some officers do report cases of inspection, particularly chest infection, a lot of congestion. The officers spend more time actually standing and walking, and they rarely have time to rest because the traffic duty is very demanding. We have the congestion, the traffic jam, and you hardly get time to go and rest. You only have maybe 5 minutes to go and have a little, a cup of coffee, then back again.
So what measures do officers take to protect themselves from the effects of pollution as they carry out their duty?
On the part of emission from exhaust fumes of motor vehicles, we actually tell them to put on masks. And most of them have masks in town. You see, they have masks which will actually prevent what we call toxic contaminants, which are emitted from the smoke of motor vehicles from getting to their respiratory system.
Without proper equipment while on the road for hours and hours, their vulnerability is evident because the more they take in, the more their system weakens.
The longer you are exposed, or the longer you're exposed to harmful gases, the worse or the higher the risk of your development of airway diseases, and the higher your severity of these diseases becomes. If you're going to be out in the street like a traffic policeman, smack in the middle of a busy highway whereby there's lots of cars, there's lots of exhaust fumes, you can expect that such a person is at a higher risk of developing chronic lung disease.
Vehicle emission have proven to be toxic because of the compounds released during combustion. The chemical components after combustion proving to be dangerous not just to humans but also to the environment.
Yeah, because you have dust, of course, and like I said, you have also components that have not been combusted. You get to have particles in the air, and those particles in the air, which we refer to as particulate matter, will have your COs and NOs and SO2, SOs. Those are components that have been emitted from the engines being adsorbed, that is stuck onto the particulate matter, which we call dust. And therefore you're inhaling compounds or chemicals or molecules that are attached to dust, and that is where our story starts with our health.
While ozone is an invaluable compound in the upper atmosphere for our continued existence, when it forms on the ground level as smog, it has a vast array of health issues that come along with it.
There is also what we call is ground level smog. Ground level smog is composed of poisonous gases that create a thick vapor that we end up inhaling. That is mainly as a result of car exhaust gases, diesel engines, and sometimes also from factories.
The use of masks has been fronted as one of the best ways in which one can protect oneself from the effects of air pollution.
There are two ways to look at it. The first is, what can the everyday mwananchi do? And one of the easiest things to do is to wear a mask. Masks, even though sometimes they're uncomfortable, reduce the amount of particulate matter, like soot, that you inhale. They may not reduce the amount of, the regular mask may not reduce the amount of gases that you inhale, but the amount of fine particles that will be reduced. There are specialized masks called which have got devices that can convert the harmful gases into less harmful ones, but I don't think that's something everybody is going to have access to or wear. some of the things that we do for somebody who has no choice but to be in a polluted environment, wearing a mask is an easy solution.
So what should people exposed to pollution look out for after exposure?
The most common respiratory symptom generally is cough. And yes, with pollution, the most common symptom will still generally be cough. But it varies. For example, an asthmatic exposed to air pollution may start wheezing a lot more. Or, for example, an asthmatic, somebody who's not asthmatic exposed to a high amount of pollution may either develop asthma-like symptoms. They can develop coughing, they can develop wheezing. Some people can develop shortness of breath. But it depends, because air pollution is also linked to cancers. And they may be higher risk of developing lung cancer as a result of chronic exposure to pollution.
The state of air quality in Nairobi still needs some working. For the month of May, from the 12th to the 22nd, the air quality in the city has been majorly moderate. At the beginning of the month, most days experienced good air quality due to the heavy rains witnessed in the country. During the month of May, different areas including Kariobangi North recorded unhealthy air quality, which was unhealthy for sensitive groups. Other affected areas include Nyerere Road, which surpassed the unhealthy mark, registering 102, with other areas registering moderate quality. The areas include Dandora Phase 4, Kangemi Health Center, Nairobi National Park, Kariobangi North Health Center, Nyayo Estate Gate B, Nyayo Estate Gate D, Elk Office, Nyayo Stadium, and the Aga Khan Academy. An estimated 40% of Nairobi's PM2.5 air pollution concentrations are attributable to road transport. PM2.5 is fine particulate matter that is 2.5 microns or less in diameter. These tiny particles are inhalable into the lungs and can induce adverse health conditions. The rise in PM2.5 concentration in Nairobi is primarily due to the presence of large and aged vehicle fleet, inadequate road network, and poorly enforced vehicle emission standards.
The regulations require that they make a requirement for testing of vehicles. But that requirement, we were not able to operationalize it because we didn't have standards for the vehicles. Recently, the standards, the vehicle emission standards, were adopted by the East African Community member states. That's in 2022. We adopted the standards. We have also amended the regulations, the air quality regulations 2014. We are waiting for the gazettement of the air quality regulations 2024, which have standards for the vehicle, because we could not operationalize that without one standards.
Despite accounting for only 9% of the population, the city hosts over a third of the country's 3 million vehicle fleet. However, only 12.8% of Nairobi residents possess vehicles.
The population in Nairobi is very, very high, yeah, and the population of people of humans in Nairobi is also very high. Given that every young guy, you, me, my young brother, whenever they get a job, the first dream they have is to own a car. Okay, could be operating from the same estate, living for the same job place, but everybody would be happy driving on their own beast.
Pollution is among the leading causes of death in Kenya, especially in Nairobi. The World Health Organization estimates that 19,000 people die annually in Kenya due to air pollution. The United Nations Environment Programme UNEP report shows that of the total death in Kenya resulting from air pollution, Nairobi accounted for 70% of those deaths, indicating the high degrees to which air pollution is prevalent in Kenya's capital. As of May 2024, data from IQ Air shows that 490 people have so far died from air pollution in Nairobi. Experts have warned that Nairobi's air quality is getting worse each day, with particulate matter PM2.5 levels getting higher than the recommended limit by WHO.
Especially in our city of Nairobi, where there are hundreds and thousands of cars on almost every major road. People are walking next to the cars. There's lots of exhaust fumes. There's lots of factories. If you go to industrial area, you'll see there's lots of smoke. You can even see the air is not very clear. And if we look at Nairobi's air quality index, which is what we use to assess how good our air is, Nairobi's air quality index is rated as moderate. Moderate is generally unhealthy. This puts vulnerable people, especially asthmatics, people with airway diseases, people with chronic lung diseases, at risk of having increased flare-ups, increased admissions, it really just becomes a big problem.
The government, however, has measures in place to help mitigate the effects of emission.
So anytime these amended regulations are gazetted, we will roll out vehicle emission testing. It will be a requirement that when for private vehicles it will be once after every 2 years. Commercial vehicles it will be once annually. Okay, we will be administering stickers, emission compliance stickers for vehicles that have complied with the requirements. Upon testing, we will designate testing centers where people owners of vehicles will be required. Once these regulations are gazetted, owners of vehicles will have to take their vehicles there for testing. Once they pass the test, you get a sticker.
The biggest challenge to dealing with unroadworthy vehicles has been the lack of proper regulatory standards. The voice on what should be done is uniform across the board, with the threat on health very evident.
So it is true, when you have a vehicle that is stationary, the bus stops, when vehicles are picking passengers and the exhaust are directed to the bus stop or to a shop next to the bus stop or a kiosk, then you have very high concentrations of the compounds that are being exhausted and are inhaled, and over time the individuals get into more health issues.
If we were to reduce the number of motor vehicles on the highway, the amount of air pollution would go down. More sustainable transport systems that, for example, other countries have implemented include like electric trains or having specialized roads that can accommodate many cyclists, tends to reduce the amount of noxious gases produced.
Currently in Nairobi, the network monitoring is still very limited, because most of the monitoring sites are concentrated in some few areas, but some areas have no monitoring equipment. Secondly, this data, we don't have a central repository where we can access this data.
The sun sets in the green city under the sun. Pedestrians and traffic officers who have been busy working around the clock to fend for their families retreat home with conditions that are slowly taking their lives.
Normally we deploy the officers for 8 hours. We've got the first and the second shift, and the first one begins at around 5 in the morning, and that one runs until sometimes in the day around 2 or thereabout. Then the second shift begins until almost 10 p.m.
Traffic officers who have cleared the roads are now forced to struggle to breathe, with lungs choking on duty. And as the vehicles continue to flock to the streets, so does the smoke, reducing the quality of air. Visions become blurry, indicating that for those exposed to poor air quality, their future is bleak and an emission away from death. Brian Amuai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Now, a well-executed feature by one Brian Amuai, painting a picture of what traffic officers go through in their daily, as they go about their duties each and every day, and why there's a need by the key stakeholders to ensure that they can get, proper help in terms of preventing, the occurrences of, rather, those officers having problems in terms of, as highlighted by Dr. Naveed Merali in that particular features. Of course, he said one of the ways to prevent that is the use of masks, but we hope that the key stakeholders can do more to ensure that the traffic officers can go about their duties in a safer manner. Now, that particular feature story wraps up our bulletin at this particular moment in time. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. I have been Ian Keitano, sign language interpreter has been Josephine Oko. Until tomorrow, do have yourself a wonderful night, and like always, God bless.
value your feedback.